being a photographer on Instagram. A lot of fun, right? So if you're like me, you're probably feeling a little bit frustrated with Instagram within, I would say, maybe the last year or so. The platform has just become completely different comparing it to what it once was. It used to be an amazing place for photographers to share their work, to find like-minded individuals who are interested in the same things, and now it's just something different. Now, if you've seen other videos I've made about social media on this channel, you know my mindset is you just got to play the game and embrace the changes to all these platforms. For Instagram, that means posting reels, paying attention to, what the CEO of Instagram is saying about what's working, what the intention of the platform is, but I can understand why some people just want to dismiss that and share their photography. And that's what we're talking about in today's video. How can you grow on Instagram without using Reels? So I know you're probably thinking, what qualifies me to talk about this? It's actually three main things. So reason one is why I'm out right now. I'm looking for photos for my daily photo project on Instagram. You see, at the beginning of 2024, I made a new Instagram account called Evan Ramp Photo, and I set the goal for myself of posting one photo every single day. And the benefit of sharing one photo every day is you have so much data to look at and draw from to get an understanding of what's working on Instagram when you're sharing photos and what's not working on Instagram when you're sharing photos. Reason two is my main Instagram at Evan Ramp. So this account is close to 170,000 followers, and I've been using this account since like 2015 and before that. So I've seen all the phases of Instagram, all the changes on this account, and I've seen how my data, likes, interactions have changed over the years as Instagram has evolved. So reason number three is something that I almost don't even want to mention because I know y'all are going to get mad at me in the comments and be like, this guy's just plugging his business with this video. But something that I want to do more of in the future and something that I just really enjoy right now on the side is working with other creators to help them build their social media and build their brand. Right now, it's an extremely small group of people because I don't have the time to do it full time or make it a big part of my business. But with working with these creators, I've been able to see what works on social media for them, what doesn't work for them, and have other data sets to draw from, and we've seen some great results. So some of the information in today's video is also drawn from those coaching clients that I'm working with. Let's get into it, and also big shout out to XR Photo for sponsoring today's video. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. The first thing we got to talk about if you want to grow on Instagram without using Reels is simple, and that is to post more photos in your carousel. Instagram recently upped the number of posts you could put into one carousel to 20 photos, which is a lot. I don't know if that feature has been rolled out to everyone. I know somebody I was working with coaching got that feature months and months ago, and I just got it. So it could be something that's staggered, but I've noticed on my photo page as well as my main page, when I post a carousel of images, there's more engagement, and Instagram's algorithm deems it, I guess, more interesting. This really showed itself when I posted my first set of 20 photos just as an experiment on my photo page. The engagement and the likes on that photo just blew out of the water. I have to assume that this post was just shown to everyone who follows me because I was utilizing a new feature and the post was more engaging. People were spending more time on it and swiping through. So if you find yourself with the opportunity to share more photos or create more compelling sets of images, I definitely recommend it because based on the data that I've seen, it definitely works to have your photos be seen by your audience and accelerate the whole algorithm thing with Instagram to hopefully show your work to more people. Now, speaking of the algorithm and what Instagram is favoring at the moment, there is no secret that right now shares on Instagram is kind of the key metric. I've talked about this a lot in the past. I noticed it over a year ago with my own main page, Evan Ramp, that when I posted something that got more shares, it just seemed to snowball and get quite a bit more engagement and views and just overall impressions. And Instagram's CEO has even come out and said that the whole point of Instagram right now is to show people things that they would want to share with other people that they find interesting.
One of the most important signals we use in ranking is sends per reach. So out of all the people who saw your reel or your photo, how many of them sent it to a friend in a DM?
All right, so your boy is not having very much luck right now with the daily photo project, but that clip that I just showed you highlights what, in my opinion, is the biggest problem photographers are having right now with sharing photos on Instagram. So I'm going to try to explain this in the fastest way possible, but when Instagram first came about, when photographers were blowing up and getting extremely popular, it's because Instagram at the time had one main value exchange, and that was inspirational value. The most inspiring photos, the best photos, were the accounts and the individuals that blew up and got the most attention. All right, now stick with me. This is the most important part of the video, but ever since video became more popular on Instagram with Instagram Reels, there are now three primary value exchanges that happen on the platform. You've probably heard me talk about it and other creators talk about it ad nauseum, but that is educational, inspirational, and entertaining value content. All right, the sun has come out and completely obliterated my chances at getting the photos that I wanted today, so let's wrap this up. Essentially, now we have all these different value exchanges on Instagram, and if we're honest with ourselves, our photos probably can't compete with the inspirational value of an amazing reel, and the inspirational value of our photos probably can't always compete with the amazing entertainment and educational value that comes with reels. So what do? The solution to this problem is simply being aware of these value exchanges on Instagram and paying attention to what value you're giving others with your post, because the more value you deliver, the more potential shares you can get for your content. So let's start with inspiration. If you're sharing an inspiring photo, instead of sharing one inspiring photo, try to maximize that inspirational value. Share 10 of your best photos, like we already talked about. Load up your photo sets. Share 20 if you can. If you're looking to exchange inspirational value and maybe some educational value, you could include tips in your captions or tips on the actual photos themselves with text to make them look more interesting. Once again, boosting the inspirational value and teaching people something about your photo process, maybe whatever it is you're doing in the photos. And if you're looking to increase your entertainment value, maybe you create a more compelling caption. Maybe you include some behind the scenes video inside the carousel that you create. The options here are essentially endless. You can do whatever you want, but paying attention to how you exchange value is what's going to help you get those shares, which from the horse's mouth, the Instagram CEO, is what is going to allow you to grow on the platform. And like I said, there's so many options here. One thing you can consider is simply using your photography as a vehicle to tap into larger audiences. Maybe you love landscape photography, but you also love hiking. You can use your landscape photography as a way to showcase your story as someone who hikes and tap into a potentially larger audience. Or you can showcase the camera gear you're using to make amazing photos and tap into not just people maybe interested in art, but people who might be just interested in casual camera gear. Like everything in this video, this is probably not popular advice, but it's just the reality of Instagram and something good to consider. Now, I'm gonna go home and cry because I gotta find a photo to post today. Yeah. Now, the third thing that I've noticed is taking advantage of your back catalog of photos. Now, photographers, I think, have this weird mindset, which is sort of justifiable, of you need to always be making something new. That photography is this action of going out and making pictures, because I think that's why we all get into photography in the first place, is we like going out, being present, and creating something. But that system, when it's applied to social media, is just a recipe for burnout, and it's a losing formula, because you're not going to be able to compete with someone who's able to create something, I guess, like a video or a reel or something that requires less work so much more frequently. So if you're looking to grow on Instagram, take advantage of all the photos that you have in your back catalog. Let's use hiking as an example. Let's say you go out on a hike, you make 3 or 4 great photos on that hike that you want to share. Maybe you can dive into your back catalog and include some posts from other hikes. And one way to actually make the process of going through your back catalog easier is today's sponsor, XR Photo. XR Photo 2024 is the most practical way to apply AI tools to your photography workflow, and it works based off of keywords placed on characteristics of your images. So let's say you import your entire back catalog or just a specific shoot into XR Photo. The AI in XR Photo will process each photo and apply keywords to them. So let's say we want to look through our catalog and find an image of architecture. We just select the architecture keyword, and now we are presented with all the images images that have architecture, and you can filter down further based on other keywords inside the subset of architecture. You can do the same thing with, say, a wedding shoot. If you're looking for a specific person, you can filter based on one image of that person and find all the photos that feature that individual. And you can also use keywords like animals, you can look for specific geotag locations, you can even search based on colors to create photo sets maybe based on a certain theme. Another cool feature I love is the ability to free text input, meaning you can enter any description you want and find images that you're looking for. The power of XR Photo 2024 is endless, and they're hooking up the channel with a special offer. You can go to the link in the description down below and try it for 14 days completely for free. And if you're looking to purchase something, you can use code EVAN15 to save 15%. And on top of that, I have a full video breaking down exactly how I use XR Photo 2024. I'll link that in the description as well, so you can follow along and learn about all the powerful tools that XR Photo 2024 has to offer. So that tip of utilizing your back catalog has been huge for my photo project, Evan Ram Photo, and I don't think I'd be able to complete this project without that or without XR Photo. Now, the next thing we got to talk about is this concept of stopping the scroll. Now, if you think about how you might use Instagram, sometimes you just turn into a mindless zombie on there, just scrolling through, looking for something to catch your attention. And unfortunately, a lot of times with photography, we don't have the capacity to always make a photo that is able to just stop someone in their tracks. It's extremely challenging and is one of the big reasons why I think photographers are struggling so much on Instagram. So one thing you can do is try to spice up the first post that is shown if you share a set of images. The intention here is to try your best to stop someone from scrolling on their phone and pay attention to whatever you're doing. Now, personally, I like doing this with creating sets of images. Now, there's really easy ways to do this with apps. You can use the Unfold app to create a set of 2 or 3 photos, but personally I like to do it with Photoshop, so I have the TIFF file of it. What I do is create a base layer in Photoshop of a 4x5, which would be an Instagram post, and if I'm going to make a photo set with 2 photos, which is one of the main things that I love doing on Evan Ram Photo, I'll size the images to 16x10 and I'll open them as layers in Photoshop, bring them onto that 4x5, and there we go. Now I have 2 photos on one post. And if I want to do this with 3 photos, I'll do a 5x12. This is just a little strategy that you can use to maybe make that front photo on your post a little bit more interesting and drive some engagement and stop all the people who are mindlessly scrolling through their phone and get them to pay attention to your photos. Now, recently Instagram has rolled out some new features that I personally haven't utilized, but I've seen other people utilize them, which could help your photography once again have a little bit more engagement and be deemed more interesting by others as well as the app. And this main feature is the feature of music. Now you can add music to your photo post to give, I guess, a little bit of a vibe to the images that you're posting. I've seen some photographers do this, and I do feel that it has some effect on the overall feel of the image. Me personally, I just don't feel like doing it, so I'm not going to do it, and I'm sure many of you feel the exact same way. But if your goal is to grow on Instagram, taking advantage of all the features they give you that are going to help your post feel more creative and potentially feel more engaging, you might as well take advantage of it, and music is one of the newest ones on photo posts. Now, speaking of Instagram features, a feature that's been around forever is the Instagram story, but a strategy that you can utilize as a photographer is, one, the old school method of just sharing your post to your story, but from what I've found in sharing my own work and sharing it on my main page as well as my photo page, these stories never get a lot of engagement. It's like Instagram knows that, hey, this is just someone reposting their own work, and usually the audience that it's shown to, I guess you would say, is throttled on the post. Sometimes I'll have Instagram stories that get 10, 12, 15,000 views, and when I post the photo from my photo page on my main account in the story, it gets like 2,500 views. So clearly there's something going on there, but a strategy that you could utilize is just sharing behind the scenes of the photos you're planning to eventually post. So if you're going out to create images, create some behind the scenes content in your story. Just maybe share that you're out doing photos, share the location, share the intention, maybe share a little bit of the experience, so when you post the actual photos to your page, now there's a little bit of this back context. And once again, the people who are following you can have more engagement with the post because they feel like they saw the process of that post being made. This is kind of a cheat code to not having to create like behind the scenes reels or something like that, but rather than getting engagement on your post or someone seeing your post just thinking, oh, this is just a photo that looks cool, all right, they might think, oh, I saw the stories of how these photos were made, these came out great, and you might get a comment out of that person where before you might get a like if you're lucky, but most likely you're going to get the mindless zombie thought of, oh, it's a cool photo, and they move on, which is counterproductive to your goal of growing on Instagram. Now, the next thing I've noticed is an unpopular piece of advice just because people throw it out there like it's so easy. So I want to acknowledge first and foremost that this is not easy to do, and that is consistency. Consistently posting on Instagram is obviously going to better your chances of growing on the platform, and the reason why is because Instagram is so algorithm heavy now that if someone engages with your photo or with your post, they're going to be shown more of that the next time you post. You're essentially going to get moved up on their feed. Think about if you've ever maybe followed someone and you don't see their post for a while and you go look at their page, all of a sudden the next day you're seeing their posts show up. That's because Instagram's algorithm sees your activity and thinks, oh, this person's interested in what this person is doing, let's show them more of that. So if you're posting consistently, your posts have more of a chance in showing up on someone's feed because there's more opportunities for them to engage with it. It's essentially like throwing more darts at a dartboard. You're going to get a bullseye more than likely at some point. It's like a game of numbers. And once again, that's extremely unpopular advice, but it's just the nature of Instagram today. If you're posting more, there's more opportunities for engagement, and this whole snowball and cycle of Instagram's algorithm will play into your favor. That is all the main advice and things that I've learned through studying Instagram, working with people, and building my main page as well as my photo page this year. Another thing you could consider as a photographer maybe is drawing in an audience from somewhere else. Maybe you post on YouTube with a call to action of follow my Instagram. That could get your algorithm moving on the platform. Maybe you could restart your page if you have a really old Instagram that seems dead. Maybe restarting can help, but I didn't want to include those in the main video because they're not necessarily like data-backed things that I've experienced, but they are things you could potentially try if your goal is to grow. At the end of the day, Instagram is completely different than it once was. Personally, I think using Reels to your advantage and figuring out a way to create more engaging content with your photos and using Reels as like a bridge to get people to your photos is the best way to do it. But if you want to post photos, everything in today's video is what I've learned about strictly posting photography and how to get some growth on Instagram. And I will say that my photo page, since I stopped posting Reels, has been growing a lot slower than it was when I was posting Reels consistently. So if you only want to post photography, it could potentially be a difficult road for you, but it's not impossible.